Call to order the Avon Town Council meeting for March 24th, 2022. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kathy, would you mind taking a roll call, please?
Steve Eisenbarth.
Present.
Robert Pope.
Present.
Aaron Teebaugh. Dawn Loudon.
Present.
Greg Zuzin.
Present.
First item on the agenda is consent agenda. Do you have any discussion or entertain a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the check register for March 24th, the minutes from March 10th work session and minutes, our meeting minutes, and the performance bond release for the Settlement West sections 1 and 2.
I'll second that.
We have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Nope.
My only
Cap,
question is, are these performance bonds or are these maintenance bonds? Because of the dollar amount, it looks kind of small for a performance bond.
My understanding was they were performance bonds. I didn't look at them
I
specifically.
mean, they could be, but I mean, $6,000 for a performance bond isn't a lot of money.
It's just something small, like, is it for signs maybe? Because signs are only like $100 a piece even for performance. So yeah, something like signs would still be low.
It's not for the entire subdivision, it's just for certain items.
Okay.
And it does say for monuments or center line monuments, so I don't know what that is. Maybe
Yeah, those are just
signage.
survey markers
Yeah.
for when they, so yeah, that one's typically low as well. It's not that much.
Okay.
So yes, probably just those items are lower dollar amount than streets and storm sewers.
all right. We have a first and a second. Kathy, roll call, please.
Greg Zuzin.
4.
Dawn Loudon.
4.
Robert Pope.
4.
Steve Eisenbarth.
4.
Next item on the agenda is the first of 2 public comment opportunities. You may comment on items on the agenda that are not a public hearing or on a specific matter within the council's jurisdiction. Please come forward to the microphone, state your name and address, and limit your time to 3 minutes. Seeing no one come forward, we'll close that section of public comment. Move on to council comment liaison reports. Ms. Loudon.
Oh, gosh. We met with a resident from our annexation area number 3 this week. Greg, Ryan, and I, and Don Hodson spoke with him. I know there's others, but I can't think of them right off the top of my head.
Mr. Zuzin.
I attended the township board meeting as well as a fire department meeting after that. Knocked on doors with Ann Engelhardt for annexation. Did the Men in Action reading for the elementary kids at Maple Elementary. Had a walkthrough with Laura Helmick with the Murphy Aquatic Park with yourself, Robert, and Ryan. And another annexation meeting with Ann. The chamber luncheon, did a site inspection this morning for the M&I Homes Wesleyan Church. And now I'm here.
Busy time. Mr. Eisenbarth.
So Greg, you're saying you were actually just kind of resting this week. Is that what?
Next week, spring break.
Yeah, I know. I can't say as much. I did attend the BZA work session and then the BZA. Very interesting as far as, we went through our council training and our work session. And their work session, had to get with Mitchell just to kind of get a clarification. There's 5 criteria they go through. And I think us up here know about it. There's 3 required by the state. And then Avon adds 2 basically for a clarification of when you have a practical difficulty. And then they went into the definitions of practical difficulty, which I could put you all to sleep right now if we wanted to. But the 2 criteria that Avon adds are if it's caused by the owner and if the request is the minimum necessary. In other words, if they're trying to really push to go beyond. And all those are just basically around that practical difficulty to get a better definition of that. Good refresher for me. I like those things, and I think it's good. Very good interaction among all the board members. Catherine and all of them did a great job. Marcus, good to see familiar faces out there, Paul and others. But other than that, they went through the rules, procedures, staff reports, practical difficulty, unnecessary hardships, variances, developmental standards, burden of proof by the applicant, It was good, actually. So besides all that, I want to thank the town staff for being proactive on the outreach for the fire, with the warehouse fire. Being able to reach out to Plainfield like you did and asking about water and making sure could we help them and actually bringing it to them before they ask. I thought that was great. So thank you, Ryan, for your staff and everybody being sensitive to that. It was sincerely appreciated at a time of need like that. My next meeting is going to be the Plan Commission on Monday, and that'll be a long one. It'll be a good one, but I think the Plan Commission's all ready for it. That's all I've got.
Thanks, Steve. Got a couple of things here. Chamber board meeting earlier this month. Nothing really major to share. Ryan, a few of staff, and I attended the youth council meeting at the high school. Just very hopeful for the future with some of these young leaders. Map walkthrough. Greg was. Thank you to Laura and the township. Really excited for that. That's really awesome stuff going on over there. The Men in Action read. Just a great public opportunity to read to some elementary school kids. A really great book. They had a lot of fun there. This past week, we also had earlier this week, perf board meeting for one of our officers potentially retiring. So that's a little down note, but I do want to highlight the response, first responder for Avon Washington Township Fire, the support that they did for Plainfield's situation. So that's it for me. We'll move on. First item on the agenda is a road salt commitment. Ryan, is that one you?
Yeah, I'll walk through it, and if Steve wants to jump in, he's welcome to. Every year, we're required to give our road salt commitment. We've actually, over the last about 8 years, we've participated in this INDOT purchasing program, which we've found has been a real cost savings to us. Basically, INDOT does a statewide salt purchasing bid, which allows us to get better prices. There is a commitment when we do that. We have to commit to a certain amount, and we're required to either at least buy 80%, but it also gives us a flexibility to buy up to 120% of whatever we commit to. We do coordinate the delivery to our facility with the company, whoever is the low bidder. And again, it's worked out really well for us in the past, and I think it will as well in the future. We do have to make that commitment by tomorrow. So staff has recommended that we purchase 1,500 tons of treated salt through that purchasing program. Last year, we paid about $90 a ton. It was just a little bit under $90 a ton for salt. And so the cost of 1,500 tons would be about $135,000. And again, depending on when we order it, the expense would be incurred in 2022 or 2023. And we do use the MVH funds to pay for that. And it would be at a mixed ratio of 1 ton of sand with 2 tons of salt is what we typically mix and what we put out into the streets. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ryan or staff?
Brian already answered mine earlier.
I've got one for you, Ryan. What's the snow removal budget remaining for this year?
We budget $400,000, and so far this year we've spent $172,000.
Okay, so we've
So
got
we're
about
in pretty good shape.
225 for the
Yep.
remaining part of this year, this season. Okay.
Yep.
Any further questions? If not, entertain a motion.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we authorize the submittal of a commitment to purchase 1,500 tons of treated salt through the statewide salt purchasing program at a cost to be determined at the time.
Got a first.
Second.
Got a first and a second. Any further discussion? Not seeing it. Kathy, would you take roll call, please?
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Steve Eisenbarth,
4.
Robert Pope,
4.
Don Loudon.
4.
Next item on the agenda, Avon Avenue Mitigation Maintenance and Monitoring Agreement. Is this one you or yes?
Yep, I'll handle it. Yeah, so all of you will recall that as part of the Avon Avenue project, there were we had to do some stream bank mitigation, which we actually did here in the Town Hall Park, but we also had a wetland that we needed to mitigate as well. And so we had to go through a permitting process for that, and we received approval to actually construct the wetland at the Settlement West Park or the Turner property down on Dan Jones. And so Williams Creek actually did that permitting for us, and then they were actually the low bidder on the construction as well. Part of that permit and something that is required by IDEM and the United States Army Corps is now we also have to monitor, maintain, and protect that area for 5 years following the permit. So being that Williams Creek has been involved in the process, we thought that this professional service would be good for them to continue doing for us. There are other firms that can offer it. But Williams Creek we've had a long-term relationship with them on top of the fact that since they were involved with the permitting and everything, they know exactly what we did. So from a cost standpoint, they can do it more efficiently than really anybody else could. And so in front of you is their contract for the next 5 years. The proposed cost for all 5 years of maintenance is $76,970. This year's amount is only about $17,000. We did budget this. We anticipated it, so it is in the parks budget to pay for this. So it would come out of the food and beverage fund to fund that. Again, the benefit, we could do this year by year, but the benefit of doing it now, Williams Creek has agreed to basically lock those prices in for the next 5 years. And certainly with the economy the way it is and unit prices and labor prices going up, the fact that we're able to lock it in now is actually a benefit to the town. So we appreciate that Williams Creek's willing to do that. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ryan or
My
staff?
question, were we paying for all 5 years up front, or were we paying it a year at a time?
We'd paid a year at a time.
Okay, and then on the bottom, it says this estimate will expire 30 days from the date listed above. The date above is 11 January of 22, so it's already expired.
Yes, I checked on that for you, Greg, and they said they would honor the quote. There was no issue with it.
I guess my only question is, this is a process that we don't have to get more than one bid for?
Correct, because we consider it a professional service and not necessarily just a public works project. In those cases, we'd need to get 3 quotes. But since we view this as a professional service, we don't have to.
One comment, it looks like on their scale that they are comfortable with locking in on 2-year periods, maintenance and preservation. You can see it's pegged every 2 years, it looks like. So that seems, I guess, normal, that they've got it going in that direction. Just looking at that part. The wetland delineation agents field meeting at the very end, that's only thing. I don't know what that includes, but I have to trust them.
Yeah, it's just a final, they do a final report at the end and they meet with IDEM and the Corps out there and they say, all right, yes, everything's good, and they sign off on it, and that basically ends the whole process. So they've got a report they have to do at the end, and they have that meeting that they have to attend with the Corps and IDEM.
No, they tell what they're going to do here, so that's fine. I don't have any other questions.
If no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept Avon Avenue mitigation as presented from Williams Creek. I don't have to say the dollar amount, just as presented.
We have a first. We have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Nope. Kathy, roll call, please.
Robert Pope,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Steve Eisenbarth,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Next item on the agenda, final reading ordinance 2022-09, amend the salary ordinance. You speaking to this one too, Ryan?
Yep, I'll do it real quick. Again, this will be your final reading. It was introduced at the last council meeting, and this was a discussion that the staff had with the council to add a benefit to encourage healthy employees to create basically a payment of up to $30 a month for employees to have a membership at a healthcare, and it does make it retroactive back to the first of the year. Happy to answer any questions.
I feel like we covered these the past couple times we talked about it, but
Just keep them healthy. That's what I say.
any discussion, any questions for Ryan? If not, entertain a motion on this one.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 2022-09 and ordinance amending the 2022 salaries, wages, and benefits for the employees of the town of Avon.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Kathy, roll call, please. 4.
4.
4.
4.
Next on the agenda is the final reading ordinance 2022-10, Rise Development, 2022 zoning amendment, 2022-01. I'll get it right one of these times, Bill.
And I'm going to recuse myself because I represent one of the sellers.
Kathy, would you mind just making note? Dawn was recusing herself and is stepping out of the room.
Good evening, Bill Peoples here. I'm the planning director for the town.
Give me 1 second, Bill. Do we have a petitioner, someone representing the petitioner here? You have a limited council here. We have one person on vacation that's not here in attendance. So you have only 3 members here tonight. I'd like to give you the opportunity, if you'd like to wait until you can get, you'll never have all 5 with Dawn needing to recuse herself, but you want to continue with it. All right, Bill, it's yours.
Yeah, this is a request to rezone 2 single-family residential properties that are currently zoned AG, and you dual zone them, half of it being I2 and the other half being R1. The purpose of the dual zoning is to allow the 2 residential properties to be subdivided roughly in half, with half of the property being retained for single-family residential use, and then the 2 1-acre sections of those lots to be converted for industrial use. There is a primary plat request pending before the Plan Commission to accomplish a subdivision that would incorporate the 2 single-family residential lots into the adjoining industrial development, and then, of course, retaining the 2 1-acre single-family lots for continued residential occupancy. Each of those residential properties are currently about 2 acres in size and zoned agricultural. The minimum lot size of the ag district is 5 acres. So the Plan Commission cannot approve a primary plat on those properties unless the lot is 5 acres in size, which is the reason they're requesting the 1-acre portions to be rezoned to R1. If it is zoned R1, it would comply with the zoning ordinance, and the Plan Commission can then approve that subdivision plat. The remaining 2 acres will be incorporated into an adjoining parcel that you all rezoned last year to the I2 zoning district. That would create a 13.627 acre property for industrial redevelopment. This property has gone, or this development proposal has gone through a significant number of of zoning entitlement processes, 2 rezonings, a subdivision plat, and they do have a development plan review petition pending that the Plan Commission will hear in April, in their April meeting. The Advisory Plan Commission did meet on Monday, January 28th, and to consider this proposed amendment. In their numbering system, it is ZA 2201. The public notice was advertised and legal notice was published in a paper of general circulation in Hendricks County. The Plan Commission did move to approve and adopt the amendment and send it forward to you with a favorable recommendation. That vote on that favorable recommendation was 5-1, and they did subject to that to one commitment. And that commitment was that a 35-foot half right-of-way be dedicated along County Road 1050 East, and that was in keeping with a thoroughfare plan recommendation for that particular roadway. With that, the recommendation is favorable to you with one commitment. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions for Bill or staff or the petitioner?
No, Plan Commission, I thought that went well. I mean, I don't have any questions really. Go
I
ahead.
have a couple questions. So the reason why, so I understand what you just said, is their existing homes are there and they're zoned ag.
Right.
We're going to resurvey that property because they're going to take some of that property and make it into R1.
Right. There's those 2-acre lots, those two acre lots, I guess is currently where they are, has a little creek that flows through their backyard, essentially cutting both of those lots in half. And that creek is the approximate location of the break on these two. So it'd create a 1-acre lot that fronts on 1050. And then the 2 1-acre remnant parcels will be incorporated into the industrial development to the west.
Okay. I went by there today again, and the site under construction, that has nothing to do with this. I think Ryan told me that was to connect to the CRG development on the west side of Ronald Reagan. Is that,
Yeah.
but it's right there is part of that?
It's north of it.
It's north of that.
Yeah, it's north of this site.
And there's no egress ingress off of 1050 into this project?
None are proposed right now. When it was originally proposed, there was an emergency ingress and egress only on 1050. But the petitioners removed that ingress egress point.
So how do you get to this project other than on Ronald Reagan?
That's it, right in, right out, only off of Ronald Reagan Parkway.
So you have to be going north basically to get into it,
Yep,
and
and
go back north to get out of it.
north to go out, yes.
And then in here too, I saw that this is going to be steel construction.
Yeah, there'll be all steel buildings. The petitioner has proposed about 30% masonry on the front facades facing Ronald Reagan, with I think about 10 to 15% on one facade, on one side facade. There's 6 buildings at front on Reagan, a total of 20 buildings being proposed, and those 6 buildings would have some cladding on masonry in the front. One side would be masonry, and then they will have a wood siding sort of storefront on the front of them.
So my only question is if we approve it, I mean, as steel construction and because of supply chain issues, because of cost of material, they come back and say, we don't want to do steel anymore because the price has gone through the roof. Do we have to approve that? Do they come back to you to get that approval?
They would, they'll get development plan approval, hope maybe anyway, by the Plan Commission at their April meeting. If they choose to change the cladding of the structure at some future date, depending on the nature of that cladding, it could be administrative approval that I do, or it could require a rehearing of the development plan petition by the Plan Commission.
And then I saw from Greg Elko, it says, please note that there are concerns that the detention areas shown are not adequately sized to meet the detention requirements in regards to the controlled release and minimum required normal pool area. Has that been addressed?
I believe that they've addressed that maybe through the waiver process. I'm not certain. I just received literally like a half hour ago an updated engineering letter on that one. And there's still about 4 outstanding issues that they're going to have to work through. Most of them deal with modeling, the modeling software that are used to provide calculations for the ponds. But it appears that there's a waiver being requested for certain standards of the drainage ordinance. And that's an administrative approval through the Department of Public Works.
That's my question. Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
I got kind of one for you, Bill. So we've sort of already rezoned this before. We had some changes made by IDEM to cause a need for us to add on and rezone these extra parcels. The spirit, the intent of the rezone we did before, anything changed to majorly impact this project?
No,
at this
no,
point?
I mean, the plan for this area is innovation, which is sort of a light industrial classification that encourages entrepreneurship. And that's basically what this petition, this development does.
So no major change between the rezone we've already done to essentially 99% get us here. This is just essentially amending it to make sure we can get it across the finish line. That's
Adding a
all.
couple
Sure.
acres to the industrial so they can avoid building some retention walls, I believe.
Any further questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Any questions for the petitioner? Should ask that if there's anything specific to ask.
With the
them.
commitment, I'm fine with the 1050, what they're doing there on the right of way. So, I don't have any.
So my last question, so if they want to have egress, ingress on 1050, is that an administrative item that you address?
1050 is the responsibility of Plainfield. So it's a Plainfield road. So they have to go through the town of Plainfield in order to gain access to 1050.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion. Greg, is there any other? Maybe we're good. I'd like to make a motion that we accept ordinance 2022-10, or I guess I should say ZA 2201 Rise Development as presented.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Kathy, roll call, please.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Robert Pope,
4.
Steve Eisenbarth,
4.
Mitchell or Ryan, would either of you go ahead and grab Dawn, bring her back in here? Welcome back. Next item on the agenda is final reading of ordinance 2022-11 Wesleyan Investment Foundation zoning amendment 22-03. I understand the petitioner has requested to table this item at this time. Is that correct, Ryan?
That's correct. The staff did receive an email actually last night from the petitioner requesting the council continuing this till your April 14th meeting. And I think Mr. Baining's here on behalf in case you have any questions, but
That being said, entertain a motion to table this item.
I'll make a motion that we table it.
I have a first.
I'll second.
We have a first and second. Kathy, take roll call, please.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Steve Eisenbarth,
4.
Robert Pope.
4. Next item on the agenda is legal counsel report. Mitchell.
I have nothing tonight. Thank you.
Next item, the second of 2 public comment opportunities. You may comment on items on the agenda that are not a public hearing or on a specific matter within the council's jurisdiction. Please come forward to the microphone, state your name and address, and limit your time to 3 minutes. Not seeing a bull rush towards the microphone, we'll end that section of public comment. Move on to second council comment.
One of the things, my calendar went down, that's why I couldn't think of anything that I did before, but I did attend the police merit board meeting this past week, and they were discussing promotions in the lieutenant and the sergeant ranks, so we'll be hearing about those soon.
With that, do we build in those promotions into our salary ordinance, or are we going to have to come back and get another amendment to the salary ordinance?
No, I don't believe, when we pass the salary ordinance, there's a pay rate for lieutenant and for sergeant. So unless that rate changed for some reason, you shouldn't have to change that.
Thank
And I believe you'd have to check with Brian and Sean, but I believe they budgeted with the expectation this year that those were coming as well. So I think you're fine on both accounts, but I'll double check with Brian and Sean.
That's where I was going to, I think the spirit of where you were getting at was the budget. And I do believe we asked this question at one of the work sessions and they both said yes, that they were budgeting for these promotions.
Okay.
Please confirm. Yeah. Next item on the agenda, council calendar, Ryan.
It's spring break, so everything's a little bit quieter than usual. Plus, you guys, since we have 5 weeks in March, you guys actually get a week off in April too. So next meeting is April 14th at 7 p.m. and we do have a work session at 5:30. So we will see you guys all again at 5:30 on the 14th.
I'll make one more announcement. The town's website the brand new town website is live today. Jared's done an amazing job on that. If you're out watching, please check out the new website. Give us feedback. Hopefully it's positive. That's all. Nothing further. Meeting adjourned.